Okay. All right, so when we talk about punishment, first thing you need to know, punishment must be swift. Okay? Punishment must be swift. Swift means fast. A punishment to be effective must be fast. Does that make sense? Yes? Y'all said it made sense last time, and it. Perfect example. If I go and the dog poops in the morning and I say, oh, as soon as I get home, I'll handle this. There's a problem with that, okay? Dog has to be affected right away. Does that make sense? Child the same way. Has to be consistent. Very important. Consistency is important. Why is consistency important? To make sure it's something that I always know is about to happen. I know the schedule. I know the routine. Okay, so when we talk about punishment, it has to be swift and consistent. Okay? All right, so another thing you want to know about punishment. Punishment is aversive, which means it hurts. Punishment is aversive, it means it hurts. Anything or any scenario that talks about something being uncomfortable, that's a punishment. Okay, if you read the scenario and you see it's uncomfortable, you know right away it's a punishment. Reinforcers always feel what? Good. Okay. Then we have these different types of ways or things you've learned. First one is escape learning. Escape learning is literally while you're in the midst of the punishment, you learn a way to get out. While you're in the midst of the punishment, you learn a way to get out. Yes, while you're in the midst of it. Give me some examples of something you were in the midst of getting a punishment and you did something to get out of it. There you go. How many of you ever how many got spankings here before? Okay. I called it that too. Now, belts, correct? Belt, who didn't get the belt? Switching belts, they work. Now, as the belt comes to you, have you ever accidentally caught it? And then your parent says, let it go, and you're looking like, I can't. Okay, and they're like, let it go, and you're like, I really want to, but I can't. Okay, all that is escape learning. For the moment, you're like, let me stop this. Also, for all of you who are in the midst and you're crying and you're thinking the crying will stop the hurt, aversive. That's literally what you're doing, escape learning. You're trying to escape the pain. Does that make sense?
It's the same way like cousin, he said, move his chair down, the kids, they know exactly.
They've been conditioned. Oh, yeah. So if they're in the midst of getting something happening and they've learned how to stop him from doing it, now they're going to escape. Does that make sense? Avoidance learning, avoiding the punishment. We have all mastered this. How many of you had curfew? All right, how many times have you ever been late for curfew? Brett, I knew you was going to give me one example. Okay, so have you ever, what time was curfew? 11?
6:30.
I see why you was late. All right. So, do you remember the one time you were really, really late? Yeah, like 7? Okay. Once it got about 6:25, what were your thoughts? Okay. But then you didn't go, so what happened?
About 6:34,
Okay. So your also thought literally is, if we're in breast condition and we're like, it's 6:25, I'm not gonna make it. Ain't no sense of rushing. It's gonna happen anyway when I get there. It's already some switches waiting for me.
No, I think I
Oh, I hope not. So at this point, you're literally saying, I'm not going home right now. It's already consequences. I might as well really just enjoy myself. These are going to be my last days for a while. Let me enjoy. That would be your avoidance learning. You're trying to delay the punishment. Some of you, the dentist is a great example of this. You know you need to go, but your thought is, it's going to hurt. I'll go next week. I'll go in 2 more weeks. Maybe next month. Math class is another one. You like, that's going to hurt. It's going to hurt real bad. I'll do it next semester. Next semester, maybe I'll do it in the summer because it's short. Then the summer comes, I'm not going to do it in the summer. It's too short. I'll do it in the fall. In the fall, that's the longest semester. I cannot do it in the fall. We don't even get a break. I'll do it in the spring. All you're doing is avoidance learning. You're trying to avoid the pain. Okay? Does that make sense? This is also the child that starts to plead just before you're about to beat them. Let me explain. What had happened was avoidance learning. Got it? Now, punishment makes you aggressive. Punishment increases aggression. All of us here have been punished. So let's take a scenario. We just got a spanking, since most of y'all have gotten one. You then went up to your room. How'd you walk up to your room? You soft, because you didn't want another beating. So you were like, what happened when you got in the room? You slammed the door. And then when you were in there, what'd you say? Just wait till they get it. I'm taking them. I'm putting them all in a nursing home. They ain't never getting out. Why? Punishment creates aggression. I've never heard a person that's punished and says that was the best thing that has ever happened to me. I truly enjoyed that spanking.
Years down the road, you might say, thank you.
They'd be like, oh, I get it. But at the same time, like, that was a beating. You didn't have to hit me for every syllable of the word. I often told my daddy, that word does not have two syllables. You is one syllable. It is not a you. Ooh, it's not sound like that. I didn't need a spanking for each one. Yes, we will.
I had a question about one of the questions on the homework that we did. It was
Mhm.
about a woman who was taking stolen food, and so they would put her in a room.
Mhm.
Would that be negative punishment because they're taking their food away?
Mhm.
So it's not a. That's the one that I was really.
Because remember, and you know what, timeout is one of those ones that's really tricky. And timeout is tricky because the thing is, I'm adding something, but yet I'm taking something away. So the thing you have to look at, we first know it's a punishment. Timeout is a punishment. So if we say we're taking away their freedom, we know at that point it became a negative punishment. With her situation, putting her in the room took away something she enjoyed. Right there, and we know.
The food and the taking.
Yeah.
I would never take food.
I don't know if that was a
Yeah, that's like we look at jail. Is jail a positive or negative punishment?
Punishment. Well, I don't know, you can get a degree in there.
Okay, technically the system is made up to be a negative punishment. Once you get in, it's now a reinforcer. Because what happens when you get in? You get rewards for certain things, you get advantage for something. So the idea is that it's a punishment that becomes a reward system, which is why a lot of people go back, because they get used to it. You hear a lot of people after they've committed a crime and they get out, they don't know what to do when they get out. So they break another crime just to get back in because they're used to the routine. Okay, it's just something that happens. Beyond the basics, you guys know these already. You've even tested on these, correct? You know generalization, yes. Discrimination, yes. Extinction, spontaneous recovery. All right. Now we know shaping. Understand this whole idea of learning is to shape you. The whole process of learning is to shape you. What shaping means is to create an individual to do the behaviors you want. That's all shaping is, creating an individual to do the behaviors that you want. Does that make sense? Your parents were the first people who rewarded you and punished you. Were they not shaping you to be the child that they want? That's all that is. In relationships, when you reward and punish your spouse, is it not so this person can be the person that you want? Yeah. You'll find that more and more. A lot of people go home and be like, you messed me up. It's all your fault, Mom. But shaping is literally shaped you to be the person you want. Does this make sense? If your spouse wants you to clean the bathroom every morning, what will they have to do? Mess it up. It's messed up. Ask you to clean the bathroom. How is that going to work? Nagging. Nagging. Nagging is usually the method that is used most often. There you go. That's a trick right there. If you clean the bathroom every morning, you get your candy in the cookie jar every morning. How much cleaning of the bathroom do you think you're going to get every morning? Everything should be clean. Does this make sense? It's all about shaping. Follow? Good. All right, so reinforcers. Now, you've got on the schedule. We understand that we're creating this reward and punishment, but now you have to have a schedule. And the schedule actually represents when the reinforcers are done, okay? When we look at reinforcers, we're going to look at them in 4 different ways. Okay, first one you need to know the whole category. Continuous schedule. Continuous means what? Over and over again. So a continuous schedule happens after every behavior. A continuous schedule happens after every behavior. Every time you raise your hand, you get a star. Every time you complete a chore, you get $1. That is a continuous schedule. It happens after every behavior. What happens to these individuals? If you keep getting something after every time you do it, what happens? You get used to it. Does the behavior usually stop? Usually yes, because there's nothing else to look forward to. A lot of your children are like this now. What do you notice a lot about your teenagers and your 9 and 10-year-olds? What do they expect right now? Everything. What happens if you're on a team right now and you lose? What do they give you? A trophy. If you win, you get a what? A trophy. If I win and lose, I still get a what? So why try? I'm getting a trophy anyway. Does this make sense? This is that continuous schedule. Okay? The sad part is, in life, you don't always get a trophy. You know, winning is great, but losing hurts. And if you get rewarded for it all the time, a child starts to think no matter what happens, they should be rewarded for it at all times. Okay? You get this as a great example of the child who got a D and all of a sudden gets a C and tells you they should get a reward for it. Why should they get a reward for it? Because it's a C. It's not a D. And you're like, you're better than a C. You said I was better than a D. So what do you want me to do? That's the whole idea. Continuous schedules do not work. Okay? Now, we then have different types. So this is where your catch is. You're going to get 2 words that you need to learn first. Ratio and fixed. When you see the word fixed, I always want you to know it means same. Whenever you see the word fixed, you always know it means same. So if something is fixed, it's always the same. Does everybody follow that? Does that make sense? Good. Ratio represents the number of times you complete a behavior or you do a behavior. Okay? So ratio counts the number of times you complete a behavior, and fixed means same. Do you follow me? So if it's a fixed ratio, it's always going to be the same amount of times you do something. Does everybody follow that? Give me an example. I am going to reward you the same time after every number of behaviors. Give me an example.
Every time you in the pot,
Fixed ratio. I have a set number and I know the reward. I know 3 times, after every 3rd time, I go to Chuck E. Cheese. Make sense? Give me another example. I know if I clean my room every day, there's a word, fixed and reward. Does that make sense? Everybody got fixed ratio? Yes? Okay. We then have what is called fixed interval. Interval actually represents anything on a clock. Seconds, minutes, hours, days, weeks, years, decades, etc. Anything that is represented by a clock is an interval. Anything represented by a clock is an interval. Fixed still means what? Same. So it will be the same time. A fixed interval is the same time. Everybody follow? Give me an example. Is fixed interval. Give me another example. What day?
15.
Fixed interval. You get paid every 2 weeks. Fixed interval. Does this make sense? It's the same time. Everybody follow? Paycheck is the interval. Then we move to what is called a variable. Variable is changing. Variable means changing. Variable means changing. Variable means changing. Variable means changing. Ratio and interval still stay the same. Ratio means the what? Number of times. Interval means? So if I have a variable ratio, it means? Give me an example.
So every other week you'll get a paycheck, a bonus, or something like that, or every other week?
Because every other week is a definite every other week. You just said every 2 weeks. Just gave me fixed. 3 days, 2 days. I need this. You still gave me fixed.
Randomly, you would get a bonus. For, don't you do that? Okay, so like, you're supposed to.
You on a roll. Don't stop, Erica. Every.
Okay, you have to keep your desk clean because your boss comes by randomly and will give you
There you go.
a rise.
Variable.
So it's more like you don't know when it's gonna happen.
Variable. Randomly, seldomly, occasionally, every so often are your signals for variables. Does that make sense? Why? Because I can't create a pattern. Okay? You see the little boy in the store and his mom says, if I count to 3, you're in trouble. What does this little child now do? 1, 1. He's still doing it. Why? Because I know I got till 3. 2. Still doing it. And I love the mom who says 2.5.
The mom that starts back over.
2 3/4. I said 1, 2, and it's like this little boy is like, we're good. Compared to the mother that says, if I call you 1 time, you just don't know what day this might be, then I'm gonna snap. Okay, sometimes the mom goes in and calls you 3 times, then one day she only calls you 1 time before she grab you. And so now, a week later, whenever you're in the store, you're just like, I don't know if this her day. Is she crazy? Variable. Which one do you think you get the best results? Correct. Okay? Because you always got to be on guard. Perfect example, if I said to you, I will only check your work every 90 days. Every 90 days. Right around that 1 week before 90 days, I'm going to start working. If I said to you every so often, I'll check your work. Since you don't know when, you do your work. Everybody follow? You can identify these?
Random drug test.
Ha, is a what? You got it. But if I said report to your probation officer every Friday, fixed what? Interval. What gave it and made it an interval? Friday. Everybody got it? Because you know it's a lot of them on the test, right? Good.
You did
And on your final.
You do another fixed ratio.
Fixed ratio?
Yeah, like an example. Would that be like when you report to your?
I'll call you every day. Fixed ratio. Come to class. Yeah, it's literally, I'll call you every day is a fixed ratio because I'm looking at the behavior. If I said I'm gonna call you, come to class every day, fixed ratio. Come to class at 12 o'clock. It's an interval. Make sense? You have an assignment every week. That's due every Monday. Because you got to know the difference between a behavior that I'm counting versus the time that I'm looking at. So when you read that scenario, if it says, come around 12, 1 or 2. Come between 1 and 2. Correct. Classes every day. Classes every day at 12. You got it. Yes? I don't know what happens then. Don't know. Okay, so dopamine. What is a dopamine? It's a what? What kind of chemical? What kind of chemical? What are these chemicals called? Starts with an N. Neurotransmitters. Classical and operating is just a comparative data sheet. Always know positive reinforcers. A reinforcer always increases behavior. So when I do a positive reinforcer, I always present a behavior. If I have a negative one, I remove. Reinforcers always increase behavior. You want to read your scenario. If I'm increasing some behavior, I know it's a reinforcer. If I am decreasing any type of behavior, it is a punishment. This is the part that people get a little confused on. It appears that you guys might have mastered this a little bit from your test quiz. No? Yes, maybe. Bless you. I think you guys prefer fluff than you prefer single sentences. The fluffy questions you did better than the ones that just had 2 sentences. Yeah, the ones that didn't have enough, you were just like, I don't understand it. The fluffy ones, you mastered those. So you guys do like fluff. All right, so we move to the last type of learning, which is what we call cognitive learning. What's cognitive mean? What type of processing? Mental processing. So this is literally how you process learning. Okay. When we talk about latent learning, what does latent mean? It is literally saying using it later. So this is learning that you use later. Latent learning is learning that you use later. Give me something that you do that you learned a long time ago but didn't use till later in life.
Taking care of baby dolls as a kid.
I hope you don't take care of them the same. How many of you as a child went into a room, turned the lights on, left out with the lights on, went to the next room, turned the lights on, left with the lights off. And then your dad says and mom says what? Turn those lights off. I am not wasting money. Now you stay by yourself. How are those lights? They're always off. Your thought is the light outside is enough light to light this whole place. If the TV is on, you can see. Light a candle. It's romantic. It's calming. You can walk around with it. Why? Because you learned back when you were 8, those lights cost money. Make sense? Something used. Hopefully in this class you use something and learn it. You're going to use it later. Wait till the new episode comes. You're going to really feel like you're doing something. Does that make sense? Who does not get latent learning? Okay, the person who found this all out was Thoman and his rats. All right, so Thoman did an experiment with his rats. He had 3 separate rats in regards to their grouping. Group 1, Group 2, and Group 3. Group 1 got a reward after every time they completed the maze. Okay? Group 2 never received a reward. And then group 3 received a reward after the 10th trial run. Which brats do you think did the best?
Group 1.
Who's got 1, 2, 3? 3 is your winner. Why is 3 the winner? What happened here? What happened here? Why did you think group 1?
They got late something.
They got something, so they got what? They got lazy. What happened here? They had to work for it, and they weren't sure exactly when it was coming. And once they got the reward after the 11th time, they started realizing, like, it might come again. It might not come again. Let me keep trying. Does this make sense? Yes, no? Yes, no? Also, if you always, let's say for instance, and I hate to use this as an example because people always like, if you got 100 all the time, what does that start to do for you when you get 100? I always get 100, so, why do I need to work for it? If you got 60s all the way into test 3, and in test 3 you got a 95, what does that test 3 feel like? Feels literally like, oh my God, breaking news. You calling people, you probably would even send me an email. Like, I just want you to notice my test 3 was a 95. I'm really doing it. After test 3, guess what's gonna start to happen? You're gonna start really getting better, working hard because it felt so good. Compared to this person that gets an A all the time, it's like, these are people that if they got a B, and it's like, these are the people in your class that, oh my God, I got a 92 on that test. I cannot believe it. And you're like, 92? And it's awesome. And they were like, it's not 100.
Get out. I think you would hit somebody if somebody in this class was like that. You would just sit on them and be like, really get away.
But on the quiz,
Sorry.
the day, I was about to say, be careful, Erica. But on the quiz, if your next quiz you scored a 95, how would you feel? Yeah, like just say, woohoo, I got it. Okay? Why? Because you guys are kind of in a trial. This is an experiment. Some of you are group 1s. I'm hoping nobody is group 2. And some group 3. Does that make sense? All right, good. All right, so we talked about group 3, cognitive learning. Understand with cognitive learning, it's when you have the aha moment. Okay? You become insightful because you now understand why. The aha moment is when you become insightful because you now understand why. Are there some things in your life that you now understand why you have to do it? No? Some of you still waiting for that moment? Is everybody over 21 here? No? Okay. So, he got a whole lot of aha moments coming. Okay, so everybody else over 21? No?
I'm over.
The over 21s, you should have had a lot of aha moments by now. Over 25, you should have had a whole lot of aha moments. And if you're over 30, you lived aha. Okay? Aha is literally just that moment where you're like, darn it, now I see all this time. Why I should have just did it this way. Okay? And it's literally because you now process it differently. If the whole statement that says when you know better, you do better is true. Okay? Because you're able to live that aha moment. Does that make sense? All right, good. You don't have to know about the chimpanzees. Now, inside the whole idea of aha moments and insight, we have what is called observational learning. Observational learning is literally what it says. I learn from observing others. Observational learning, I learn from observing others. It's also called the social learning theory. Observational learning and the social learning theory are the same. And they say, I learn from watching others. I learn from watching others. Bandura is the founder of this theory, and he used what is called Bobo. Bobo is one of those blow-up punching bags that have the salt in the bottom that you can punch and it bounces back. Okay, and what he did was he had a little boy watch violent movies to see if you watch this over and over again, what type of behavior do you display? And what he found out is as the child continued to watch, he started to display violent activities when he would get in contact with Bobo, which was the punching bag. It's the same concept behind children who watch a domestic violence relationship. They start to learn this is how you model love. This is what is acceptable. This is what is okay, simply from observational learning. Does that make sense? Ever watch a child who just finishes watching Batman? Power Rangers, Batman, Superman. He's 6 years old. And the show just went off. What is he now doing? He's off the couch. He's got the sheet tied. He's flying in the air. He's swooping you. Okay? Why? Because he has learned if Spider-Man can do it, I can do it. He might even start looking at you like, and you're like, what are you doing? I'm putting a trance on you. Why? Because he feels if they can do it, I can do it. That's all this is. Okay? It even goes a little further. This is how a little girl learns how to sit, how to stand. She carries her purse. What's inside of her purse? A note, maybe some lip gloss, some lint, a couple pennies. And she has to make sure she has her purse every time she leaves the house. Why? Because mom does it. When she sits down and mom crosses her legs, guess what she needs to do? Cross her legs. Does she know why? Nope. It's just mommy does it. Okay? She's learning. The little boy who's shaving his beard in the bathroom doesn't have any hair, but he has to shave because daddy does it. He's outside cutting grass. Daddy does it. Okay? Modeling is something that's part of learning. Some of you learn how to cook this way. All you did was watched it, you picked it up, now you do it. Okay? If you still use the teaspoons and stuff, you probably weren't that person. But my grandmother never used a measuring cup in her life, I don't think. So everything was a dash, a sprinkle, a handful, scoop. And in her mind, it made sense. But when she gave you the directions, yeah, I'm like, Grandma, how much is a pinch? She's like, just a pinch. Okay. Why doesn't it taste like yours? You put something too much in it. Well, you told me to put a pinch in it. But the thing is, if I had watched her more, I would have understood what a pinch looked like. I would have understood what a scoop looks like. Does that make sense? Okay, good. Now, when we talk about Bandura, you need to know one thing about Bandura. Let's go to the slide that says, here, for social learning to work, you must have 4 parts to it. You must pay attention. This is pretty self-explanatory. For me to watch a person and model a person, I need to pay attention to them. Does that make sense? Okay. Retention. I must be able to retain it. I've got to know if I watched my grandmother, if I paid attention to her, and then I retained what she did, I got 2 steps done. Is that you're following? I watched, I remember, now I can reproduce. If I cannot reproduce the behavior, I cannot model it. Does that make sense? Yes, no? No? Okay. Give me something you just can't do. Taylor, just something you just know you can't do. Cook? You can't cook? Okay. Even if I gave you a recipe, you still can't? Oh.
I used to say if it would come out of the box, I couldn't cook it, but I've stopped learning a little bit.
That was part of prerequisite when we got married. I don't cook.
Mine too, that's a clause, but yeah, do you not cook? That's a good one. Do you not cook or you don't know how to cook?
I cook, it just don't turn out right. Everything's off.
Okay, let's use cooking. Have you ever paid attention to someone else cooking? Okay. Did you retain what they did? Sounds like we got one problem. So, but you can't reproduce it. So guess what she can never do? She can never model it. She can never model Betty Crocker's cake.
I know, like, some things you can't cook and you just cook. Like, every time I try to make homemade cookies,
You got your attention. You got your attention, but you can't reproduce it. Perfect example, when I go to the gym, okay? I'm on this kick that I'm gonna do this gym thing. I go every day, whatever. So I always stand next to the person that's running because I figure if they running, I'm gonna be running. We go stand next to each other and we gonna work it out. And they be like, shh, 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 like it's all, okay. And I be like, I'm paying attention to them. I retain what they doing, but it's just not reproducing the same way. Probably because I can't run the same speed as they do. You might have to build up to it, but you can't do it unless you can reproduce it. I can look like they do. I could do the whole like that, but it's just not looking. When I look in the mirror and next to them, we just not looking the same. Why? Because you have to do it. Biggest thing, you got to be motivated. Because the one thing Jill just said, I might not have been able to do it, but if I want to, eventually, guess what I'm going to be able to do? I'm going to be able to do the other three. Does that make sense? Yeah, it's probably, we're not sequentially creating this. It's just these need to be present. You fail here, and you're like, I got to do this. I failed again. I got to do this. I got to do this. I got it.
Same thing with quizzes.
There you go. You got to pass that quiz. You got to pass the quiz. And you're motivated. Yes? Okay. One day, soon, it's going to happen. Like this chapter coming up, I know you got it. So, this is Bobo experiment. So this is what the little boy did. We're very conscious of domestic violence relationship. A lot of your men who actually participate in domestic violence were or watched some type of violence as a child. So to them, this is the proper way to express. Most of your women who are involved in a domestic violence have been taught that that is how love is acceptable. All in the whole idea of aggression and observation. Whether it is verbal, physical, sexual, abuse is abuse. Okay, and they learn this pattern from something, and it's usually from what they are modeling. All right, so we tell parents, be very careful what your child sees in regards to you arguing with the spouse, in regards to what you're doing, because they're picking it up and they're going to model it. Just think of that first curse word that child said. Where did they get it from? It did not just come. They okay. They modeled because you dropped the pot and you said that word. So they thought, I kind of like that. It looks kind of interesting. She looks like she enjoyed it. So when I drop my bottle, I'm going to try it. Okay? And I dropped my bottle and I said, and you're like, oh, where'd you get that from? Same time you dropped your pot, I'm modeling you. Okay?
It's the same thing, like if they hear a song that has that word in it, they
You
don't say it.
know, say it. There's a YouTube video, and there's a little girl, she's about 4, and she's talking to her mom and dad. And she tells her mom and dad, Daddy, you hurt mommy at night. And the dad says, what do you mean I hurt mommy at night? And she says, every night I hear mommy hurt. And he says, well, what does mommy say? And she says, no, stop, And the dad is like, oh my gosh. And then daddy says, I'm not hurting mommy. And she says, that's okay, because mommy hurts you too. And she says, mommy hurts me? She says, yep. You say, ooh, no, oh. All she's doing is modeling what she heard. And they're trying to tell this little girl, don't do this, because they're afraid that when grandma comes over, she's going to tell grandma, mommy and daddy hurt each other at night. With ooh, ooh. Why? She's just modeling. Okay? That's what I said. Parents need to get it together. Make sense? All right, good. You've got first one.